just like how we just don't talk about periods and our experiences with athletics. And so that's kind of how this started, but we're calling it a period roundtable. I wanted to read a little preface on this because I think it does need to be said that having a period or not having a period does not make you a woman. That this is just an issue that we think needs more light shed on it, but in no way does that disqualify anyone from being a woman if you do not have a period. I just wanted to start out with that. And there's going to be probably several series of this. This is not the only one. So if you are someone who watches this and wants to kind of get involved, or you have things that weren't represented in this particular period roundtable, then please message us. We're happy to listen and potentially have you on. So that being said, I'm going to go into the first question, which is, and we'll just kind of go around the table. When was your first period and or your first experience learning about periods? So Nicole, do you want to start?
Sure. I think my first experience learning about periods was probably like the sex ed class in 4th or 5th grade, and they like gave us pads, and that was like terrifying. And I remember going home and like at some point after that telling my mom like I won't have like this won't happen to me, like I won't get mine. Like obviously that would be a problem if I never did, but at the time I didn't know that. And then I know I got mine like the summer between 7th grade and 8th grade, which middle school is already awkward as hell. And you're definitely not telling people. But I also was like wearing massive pads and trying to be like, you know, when we'd all wear our sweatshirts around our waists, when we never intended to wear it as a shirt. And then trying to run with, I'm pretty sure I ran cross country races with pads in because I was like terrified of tampons, and it was terrible.
So that was your, like, do you remember like your first experience with periods though? Like, do you remember the day? Because I'm thinking back personally, and I remember my like having my period, going and telling my mom, and then her like not having very many. I think I used tampons the first, like those OB ones without the
Oh,
applicator.
no. Just like all the way.
Yeah, exactly. And she only had like
Your body. Welcome.
yeah. She only had a couple
Throw it
left.
right off the deep end.
Yeah.
Here's the deeper cup.
Yes.
This is dry.
Yeah.
I remember my first tampon experience.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I was like in college and I was like, did it work? Oh no. Did I put that in the right place? I did, but it was not the angle I expected. But yeah, I don't remember the first one. I must have blocked it out. There are all these horror stories of like girls and when we go to camp, like bleeding up the back of their shirts. And I don't know. I really cannot remember, but I know I had it. I just must have blocked it out.
I think we all had that. I was like, yeah, because like what hole do you put it in? Like, I don't know. How does it like no one shows you a picture? You're just like, where do you stick the tampon? Like, I mean, they should, but you, yeah.
Well,
So
you
I'm glad you had that same trauma too. I mean, not glad, but I'm like, oh, see, not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't do a good job explaining the female anatomy to men or women. So if women can't even figure it out, how the hell do we expect men to figure it out?
Right.
We all have the wrong information.
Yeah, very wrong. Jackie, so tell us about your first experience other than being lobbed off the deep end with OBs.
Oh yeah. I just like had this thing in my mind that it was going to be like this special moment, and like it was just not. My mom was like, go to the bathroom. I like there's like two left in the thing. I'd like searched through like all these little baskets we had in our thing. I found one.
Did you know to take the plastic off?
Yeah, yes, I did. I did figure that part of it out.
You even had two older sisters, and neither one of them explained any of this to you?
No, I don't know. We didn't talk about this stuff. I guess at
Yeah,
the
try
time.
being in a house with two older brothers and a dad.
Right, yeah. No, tell me about your first period, Mindy.
Like Nicole, my first recollection of being exposed to this was like 5th grade sex ed.
Mhm.
It sounds like a similar experience. Like they send you home with this little goodie bag of things, and everybody's going back to their classrooms, giggling and hiding it in their sweatshirts, like hee hee hee. And the guys were in their room next door learning about how condoms work or whatever, and why anybody in 5th grade needs to know that. I don't know, but as far as my first experience having my period, I was definitely a late bloomer. Like boobs, period, boys. Yeah, I think I was like a freshman in high school, 14. Definitely was the last of anybody I knew to get my period. I grew up with 2 older brothers and my dad in my house, and nobody wanted to talk about that. And yeah, my mom was around, but definitely didn't want to talk to her about that. So kind of just figured it out. Story of my life. Nothing too exhilarating.
Yeah.
Did you guys get the shoelaces that said sex can wait?
What?
We had shoelaces that said sex can wait, part of the Midwestern abstinence campaign.
Yeah, no, but I did have a sticker on my bulletin board in my bedroom. It might even still be there. I don't know. My dad hasn't changed my room since I left high school. But it was a condom sticker that said, just wrap it. And it was on my bulletin board for, I don't know, the last 20 years.
I heard nowadays they have these things called period parties. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if a certain generation Y, I've lost count after X, but like now, I guess there's certain middle schoolers. They're like, let's have a period party. Sally had her period. It's a period party. Woo. So I never had a period party, but this is a thing. Period parties.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's like, get celebrated. This is great. Name it. Do some things. Happiness. Have a cake. So
eat chocolate while having cramps.
Great. I mean, weird, but cool.
It'd be nice because
right?
we were all like, we were all on it at the same time. That's how it works. But we were all like, I don't have mine. I don't need to go to the bathroom 3 times just to make sure that sneeze was normal.
So my story's pretty similar. I was also a late bloomer and didn't have my period until almost is towards the end of my 8th grade year. So it felt like the last one too, but probably first learned about periods. The sex ed thing, I think ours is later, like 6th grade. So there were definitely girls that already had their period at that point, and so had awareness of it. And I do remember my very first one. I was out of town with my dad and my sisters, visiting my great grandma, and I just remember having to scrounge around for resources. I can't remember where I found a pad, if it was like a little machine in a bathroom, something like that. And I remember being terrified about, my mom was a little bit of a scary mom, and so I remember being scared to tell her after we got back. So I think I put it off until the next period or something like that. And she was a nurse and was always very clinical and uncomfortable about everything. So again, it wasn't, definitely not a celebration. It was just like, ooh, this thing happened. But that was my first period. I don't think I had experience with tampons until like 15 or so. And again, it was like thrown in because we were on maybe one of 3 family vacations we ever took. And it was lots of swimming and all of that. And I convinced myself I couldn't swim. And my mom was like, just use a tampon. And it was very uncomfortable and I couldn't figure it out. And I of course, didn't want to ask for help or anything like that. So periods weren't a great thing from the beginning. But here we are.
Yep. How about you, Tiffany? Can you describe your first?
I mean, actually, it's funny. I mean, I was an early bloomer, so I think it was maybe 6th grade, 5th or 6th grade, and I was at like a day camp, and we were doing like these like balloon races. So you have to get a balloon and, you know, sit on it, pop it, and run to the next one, and then you sit on and pop it, like a relay race. And so I was doing this, and I looked behind me and I thought, oh, I still have some of the red balloon like on my ass. And I kept wiping it off and nothing would wipe off. And so I think it was a counselor came over and it's like, oh, you know, come with me. And I had started my period at this camp because I thought, oh, it's just, you know, the balloon is not getting off my shorts. Yeah. And I don't remember that conversation, but I remember going home and my mother saying, well, this is what it is. Don't be scared. Now you're on the verge of womanhood. Like, okay, what does this mean? And you're at a point now where you can have a baby, but don't do it. I'm like, what? Okay. And so she's like, and so she brought out her pads, like, you know, this is how you use a pad, and you put it on, you know, in your panties. And she's like, this is what you use. So that's all I knew. And it was fine until I got to college. And so much in Nicole's experience, all of my girlfriends, it was all female dorm, were like, you don't use pad or you don't use a tampon. I'm like, no, I use pad. I'm like, oh, that's so passe. I'm like, I don't know how to use a tampon. So I remember being in Truly Hall in the bathroom and my friends being outside the door, like trying to instruct me on how to put it in, because my mother thought too, it's kind of old school, was like, she didn't want anything up in there to, you know, keep it pure. And she was also afraid of toxic shock syndrome. Like, you know, so I was like, okay, so these were the reasons why. So after my friends kind of directed me how to, like, how do you stick it in? But I was a freshman in college when I learned about using tampons. Oh, but wow. Until then, I was a pad girl. Like, yay, pads are great.
Yeah. And then you had that life-changing moment where I'm free.
I was like, you have to worry about your tampon string hanging out.
Yeah, and I was like, it's not like a diaper. I was like, oh, I could just, oh, who knew? Right. Not me.
I don't smell as salty anymore. Me.
I never had the care package, so I'm jealous. I never was sent home like, oh, here you go.
Oh, well, send me your address. I'll go right.
Send me a care package. Awesome.